Airplane mode is wild.
All right, so here we go. Good 90, episode 8, right?
Episode 8, yeah.
Something like that.
Episode 8. We are, first of all, relieved that this chair has a human in it right now. So you're feeling better?
I am feeling better. Thank
Yeah.
you for your prayers. And yeah, that sucked.
Yeah. A little bit of
hate being
the
sick.
stomach bug, eh? Yeah. Okay, some bad nachos on the way home, or just it was actually really sick. Yeah. So, what was one highlight from your weekend in the great state?
I thought you were
Arkansas?
The
The highlight of like the stomach bug.
What was the
Yeah.
highlight of your stomach bug?
I was throwing up all night.
I slept a lot. No, I mean, we went to a concert, a Trudy Oak Revival concert, and it was really cool. The arena's cool.
Yeah.
Up in Bentonville.
Bentonville, yeah.
Shout out to the Stewarts for housing us. And yeah, I had a good time, had great community, and
Yeah.
just hung out for a weekend.
Cool.
They gave a good concert, don't they?
Oh, yeah. And Reed Southall Band opened up for them,
Really?
which was, I didn't know they were.
They're
That
awesome,
was a
too.
big plus.
Got your money's worth.
They're
man.
super awesome.
Eat any good food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
food.
Yeah. Okay.
So
was
good it
good.
made him throw up.
Did you go to Wright's Barbecue?
I did not. We went to, I don't even remember where we went and ate lunch at. Some bougie place with bad sweet tea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Wasn't bougie then.
I hate bad sweet tea.
Is that
nah,
on the
I do
menu?
too.
Is that their slogan? Bougie
Ah.
place with bad sweet tea?
Yeah.
It should have been. Because they disappointed me.
Well,
Some stevia in there.
that's not why you go to Northwest Arkansas for the sweet tea. So you're good. I'm glad you had a good trip. And then, so we're thankful that you're here, and then we're honored that we have a guest, Miss Mac Miller.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. I actually talked to somebody this week that does podcasts, and the first thing they said to me was, "Don't look at the camera," and that's the first thing I just did.
Look
So-
at it. Look at it, everyone.
Wyatt looks at it every week, so you know.
No,
you're like,
Oh, yeah.
I look down.
He looks at the mirror.
He's looking at himself.
I look
Okay.
down. I look down to make sure the podcast is running, guys.
I
Look
do
at
everything for you.
myself.
I don't care.
I,
Crap.
I am the brains. I am the brains.
All right.
Iron Man.
So, episode 7, we kind of opened this thing on relationships, and so if you hadn't listened to that one yet, I think you should, because that'll kind of inform a little bit of kind of where we are tonight. And so, obviously, we wanted to have a little bit broader of a perspective talking about this. So, that's one of the reasons that we asked you to come and kind of share with us. So, we're not going to grill you or anything, but I think we should start out just like the quick bio, you know, like what you're doing now. You did go to ULM, and then maybe like where you're from, that kind of stuff. Just like 4 or 5 quick things, you know. Don't have to be
Okay,
anything
4 or
crazy.
5 quick things. I am 23. I'm from Shreveport. I did go to ULM. I actually still go to ULM, but only via computer. For my master's, I teach the 7th grade, so I see a lot of crazy stuff and interesting things. And yeah, kind of my first adult year figuring things out.
Yeah.
Seventh
Hey,
grade.
So what's one crazy thing that you can share that you've seen as a 7th grade teacher?
Do I tell them?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The thing that
How do you know?
Well, because I'm in the loop.
the thing that
All
I
right, man.
found the other day that we were talking about, taking that girl's phone.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, we know about that.
Brady
We-
don't
we
even
knew
know
it
Okay,
way
about
as
that.
it
before you.
pertains to relationships and dating, I see a lot of crazy stuff in middle school
Yeah.
because they're 12 and 13 and everything's awkward and everyone's weird and they're trying to figure that thing out together. Well, the other day I had to take a girl's phone and turns out she was turning it off. Well, she was on FaceTime for about 9 hours and I was like, what in the world? It was
9
a boy.
hours.
It was a boy and I had to have a little coming to Jesus with him. I was like, guys, if we can't go to school without being on the FaceTime with our significant other, we don't need to be dating right
Yeah.
now.
That's
So that was just something recent that's happened. Yeah,
Wow.
that kind of pertained to this. And I was like, why are we doing this? And they were like, well, what if they go to another school? You can't trust anybody. I'm like, if we're not trusting people, we don't need to be dating.
You're 12.
You're 12.
I can't
Did your
think of
mom
any,
let you have your phone past your bedtime? Is that what?
other than sleep. I can't think of anything that I can do for 9 hours.
Well, that's what I said.
I mean, like I can't
Well,
think
I
of
mean, I
anything.
remember the middle school, like, hey, let's fall asleep on FaceTime. But
yeah.
in the morning, you hang up. You know, like that was something I think maybe, I don't know if y'all know
No,
that.
I get
y'all
that,
did that.
but-
No, we definitely
Going to
did
school on the
I
FaceTime,
ain't
that's
talking.
new.
I'll talk to you when I get home.
Yeah.
I'll miss you
Yeah.
A lot.
a lot.
Wow, 9 hours.
So that was,
That's
that was
pretty
crazy.
That is crazy. That's crazy. So, yeah. So, did you listen to the last podcast?
I did.
Okay, so
I'm a teacher too, so
yeah, she took notes.
Yeah.
Critique. Yeah, I got you.
I did
So-
not
Was our
critique.
grammar good?
Oh, was it good?
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, do you think "ain't" is a word?
I don't say it, I don't think, unless I'm trying to be funny.
But do you think it's a word?
It's a colloquial word, if we're being exact.
Way over
I mean,
my
it's
head, I
not
don't
really
know
a
what that
word.
means.
It's something that we use here in the South.
Is it?
It ain't
or
gonna
is
hurt
it
you to
not?
say it.
That's true. Yeah.
I feel like ain't's too widely used, like to not be a word now.
You think?
I mean, I think language changes
It does change.
very.
There's a whole
frequently.
course on that.
Yeah.
It was cool.
It's funny too, though, because it's sort of a contraction, isn't
It
it?
is.
But if
It's
you
trying
s-
to be a
But
contraction.
if you separate it out,
there
there's
are
no word.
There's only one word, and it's not.
It's
That's
not.
why it's not.
Yeah.
Ain't not.
That's why it ain't a word.
A not would be like the two words there.
Yeah. Well, now that we've solved that one, so what is or ain't a healthy relationship? I don't know.
Good thing you asked.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
We're gonna talk
Yeah.
about.
So no,
I didn't write that
like
down.
if just chunking the subject out there on the table and letting you have first run at whatever you want to say, like in response to the podcast. Anything you heard us say that you're like, I don't think so, guys, or oh no, I totally see where you're going. I agree with that. Like, just let's try to kind of start it out that way.
I actually did really enjoy the podcast, even with Mason being out. I'm sorry.
Really?
So did we.
no, y'all didn't.
So messed up.
Man, it's not even us now making the jokes, man. Even the guests.
No, that wasn't a joke.
These guys are so mean.
So I just think a lot of what y'all said was, when y'all had asked me to do this, is what I was already thinking. A lot of times, one of the big things that stuck out to me was like the acknowledgement that we do relationships very backwards, you
Yeah.
know? And it's just like, we start in such a wrong place, and then we have to, like, on the flip side, start trying to work backwards to fix it. And you guys talk a lot about, you know, when you were in the dark or whatever. And,
Yeah.
you know, we're not dating at that time. We're still out there in the world, still on the hunt,
Yeah.
as you guys said.
She
you know,
gets it.
on the hunt.
She understands.
That's right.
And it's just, that's where a lot of things go south. And
Yeah.
it goes south fast. And for me, anyway, I grew up, you know, had a broken home, kind of a lot of different situations. I really didn't have that example of, hey, this is what a Christ-like relationship is like.
Yeah.
Specifically in dating and or even in marriage, you know, like, so definitely some of my own testimony is definitely learning this on the back end after starting my good 90. Like, I'd already messed up, dude. Like, we got to fix this now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's something that is one of those things where everything changes. You know, when you encounter God, everything changes. It's like, oh, crap. Now the way I wake up changes. Now the way I do this changes. And then one of the later aspects that came to me was my relationship with other people is changing. And
Yeah.
it's still changing. And it's still working. And that's friendships, family, dating relationships really change, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I did really like how you guys brought that up.
Yeah.
Keeping it real.
Yeah. You know, we didn't really even talk about, like, we talked about how there's a lot of bad examples out there for us, but we really didn't even talk about, like, the lack of good examples.
Yeah,
Like, we
yeah.
didn't really phrase it that way, you know, and that is, like, a massive problem. Like, we want to, like, blame it all on all these bad examples from the movies or TV or whatever, you know, the YouTubes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, just the lack of either parents or someone to like demonstrate that, right? And sometimes I mean, I don't want to take away from parents because I think like parents that are actually doing it right, they might not, their kid's never really going to give them credit for it until like a lot later in life,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
But so it's also good to have like somebody else, you know, that steps in there. And yeah, a lot of people just don't have that. We didn't really talk about that. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, maybe, is there someone like that you guys look at and you go like, okay, who is that? What does that look like for me or whatever? What, you got somebody?
Well, yeah. Gonna shout these guys out again for giving me a home this weekend in Arkansas.
Yeah.
But the Stewarts, Todd and Ainsley,
Yeah.
they're older than I am.
Yeah.
I've known Todd since I was in 7th grade, just about. He's
Yeah.
taking me to church and taking me to Wednesday night services and this and that. And I've like watched Todd and Ainsley figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's something you kind of got my gears turning on too, is that I had a model
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
And sure, they aren't perfect. And I mean,
Right.
no one is.
Right.
But they were doing such a better job than anything that I was paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and like looking back and going and visiting them this weekend, it honestly had me thinking, like, man, like these guys are awesome. It's so far, or it's so cool to see how far that they have come
Yeah.
in their relationship, because they're married now
Yeah.
and they're still just, I don't know, it's a great relationship.
Yeah. And you say they're older, but they're not that
they're
much
not
older.
that much older.
That
than
was
me.
not
I
fair.
just said they're older.
I'm now free to make fun of Mason.
No, that
I'm
would be,
joking.
Welcome
I'm
to the
joking.
club. Welcome to the club.
No,
I'm joking,
because
I'm
they're
joking.
you're 2 years or 3 years from Todd.
about 3.5
yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
I'm like 1, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm 2.
And they've been married.
Am I Todd's age?
Have they been married
We're the same.
Yeah, they've been married a
Okay.
year,
Yeah. I
right?
was
Yeah,
thinking
yeah, yeah.
They're coming up on a year. I
It's
think,
coming up on
in
a year.
May.
No, my bad. Yeah, it's coming up
May.
on a year. This
Come
May
on.
will be a year. Yeah, I knew that. My bad. Sorry, Todd. Yeah.
That was one of my questions. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there like an example of someone like even like your grandparents or your parents like
Yeah.
I mean, I'm blessed. Like my parents have had a great relationship since I was born. Like, and they're still. What do you think?
Still kicking it, man. Still
Yeah,
kicking it.
but no, they've always had that relationship where they work things out, and I never see them. Honestly, I really never have seen them bicker. Maybe 1 or twice big ones,
Yeah.
but other than that, like I didn't realize how bad it was out in the world until I guess I got a little older and
Yeah.
I started going like spending the night with friends and stuff, and kind of seeing that, and then seeing that that's the norm.
yeah.
And I guess it's
Yeah.
a shock either way. And I realized, I guess the older I've gotten, how blessed I really was, and I've gotten like a lot more thankful
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
had that foundation at home and just have that image just around me day and night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still fall short, even though you have a perfect example.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but me and Miss Shauna were talking about that the other day. I felt like growing up, especially like around our age, and it's starting to get a little bit better. Like, if I can give y'all any hope, I think it's getting a tiny bit better in places. You were either the divorced kid or you were friends with the divorced kid.
absolutely.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And it was just like, it was like you said, it was a shock to both. I found that a lot of my friendships, which are also a type of relationship, if you think about it, I kind of craved that stability that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I also, sometimes projected that onto the boys I tried to date, and it blew up in my face really bad. Like, I was like, I want to marry you, and let's not get a divorce. We're 12.
Yeah.
Like, it was a lot of that, and it was just learning that. I know that's silly, but
No, it's
really,
understandable.
Yeah, it is.
Well, because you want that, and then I think people try to manufacture that in those relationships,
Yeah.
and you try to make things happen, even though like you're not ready, or the person that you're with is not even on the same like hemisphere, as you with some of that stuff. And we want people to be stable. It's like we're rooting for them to be good for us, you know, so then it's going to work out. But instead of like, okay, man, first off, and we talked about this in the last episode, I've got to get to this good place, and then once you're there, then you can kind of see it. What about you? Good example.
Yeah, my parents are great.
Yeah.
I mean, just like yours, they have their moments, but I've seen them through the moments of highs and lows come back together.
Yeah.
And just be I mean, be the glue.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone through a lot.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I've seen them just time after time,
Mm.
time after time. You know, and it's been awesome. But I mean, when she had said that, I was kind of thinking too, like you talk about the relationships. Think about like the men and women that you talk about preparing yourself to be models after.
Right.
So prepare for your wife, prepare for your husband. Think about the shortage of men and women that are truly and really following out the Christ-like way.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of talked about that, yesterday, maybe today, this morning.
Yeah.
And just the short amount of examples that we have, and I guess the vast amount of exposure to TV, social media. Oh, I want to be like this guy who's got all the girls. I want to be like this girl who's got all the boys, got all the followers, got all the likes. But then they're just not walking in the light of God.
Yeah.
You know, just, I don't know, that's what, when she had said that, I thought about that. And I was like, man.
Well, everybody can't be on a future award-winning podcast, and
That's
Oh my
very
goodness.
true. Yeah, that is very
I'm honored
true.
to be here.
And think
Very, very
about
true.
like how many famous people out there today are getting divorced
Oh my
left and
goodness.
right, left
Yeah.
and right.
What's the divorce rate? Like over 50% now?
I'm
It's
pretty sure it
it's
is.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah,
and,
in
and
America.
it's all
Yeah.
because that they are not living out the word.
Mm-hmm.
If they were living out the word, they know that divorce shouldn't be an option
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, and that's a tough one, right? Because you have people that like there's no basis, right? And so, with anything, like anything you're going to strive at in life, you got to have some kind of basis to build off of if you're going to build it good. And I feel like we probably have talked about that quite a bit, you know. But yeah, and so when you have no basis, or when it's shaky ground, like the Matthew 7 stuff about the house built on the rock or a house built on the sand, you know, I mean, the rain comes, you know, everybody has tough times in any kind of relationship, but how you handle those tough times is what matters. That's what sustains you, you know, and if your foundation is in Christ, if you're on something solid, well, then you can handle that stuff, right? So, yeah, that's a good point,
That's
too.
like,
So,
that reminds me of Romans 5, I think 3. It talks about trials and how trials bring about of endurance,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what, you know, divorce in my head, it's so weird because, you know, we're not married, but in my head, it just seems from the outside looking in like an easy way out.
yeah,
Like, hey, that covenant we made before God and all them people, we're just going to slide it under the rug here and maybe try next time, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just, that's scary to watch. That's scary to see, becoming such a normalized thing, I think.
yeah, for sure. So, like, talk to us, tell us something else about, either another response to the previous episode, or if you guys have a question for Mac, like, we have a girl on here, we could ask questions about that stuff. You know?
nervous.
You're nervous.
You
I'm
don't know what to
sweating.
say.
Can't you feel the tension in the room, man?
Don't say nothing stupid, dude.
That's funny.
So as we can tell, you are a walking in Christ now. You know, you found the path. So you are in a relationship.
I am.
So what is something you think you're doing now that was not even a thought back in the day?
Yeah.
good.
That's a good question. And I've thought about this a lot. And, you know, this is where a lot of fear comes in. Like,
absolutely.
oh my gosh, someone's going to find out that I'm not always perfect. Oh no. But definitely shout out to Case. He wanted to be named on the podcast.
Case.
My
pledge brother.
Wait, who?
Just kidding. What's his name?
Case. Anyway, so a lot of things that look different, and especially for Case and I, we've been through a lot together. I mean, some of y'all may know, like, our beginnings were very rough. I was in a very dark place. I'm pretty sure I scared the living daylights out of the kid. I mean, I was running as far from God as I thought I could get, you know, and if you know that story, you know you can't get far because he's always right behind you. But, and it started rough, you know, I believed in this. Everyone was telling me so many different things. I was in a relationship for such a long time before then. When I got single, I was learning so much. I was like, wait, y'all are actually hooking up with these people? Like, this is normal? Y'all are going over and doing that? Or y'all are going to get drunk on a Monday? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And, you know, I fell through some really rocky paths there. And, you know, Case and I met during that time, and it was rocky. You know, neither one of us wanted to date each other. We were both attracted to one another. I mean, that's normal, being attracted to one another, and it's God-given, as you were talking about last time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, and Brady, you said this, I was watching the TikTok reels before coming in. man, if I told you what happened, even if I told you, you wouldn't believe. Like the change that happened even within myself and with Case and like together. It's that triangle now instead of, hey, let's rush into this
Yeah.
physical thing or
Yeah.
let's, you know, let's not be intimate with emotions, but let's be intimate in other ways because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, you know. He likes to joke that he was living rent free in my mind, whatever that means, because that was all new to me, you know.
Yeah.
And
What a stud.
What
I
a-
love you.
what
I
a
love
guy.
you, Case. I love you, Case.
what a guy! And it's just like
I think
You-
he's living rent free in my mind right now. Man.
I know, Case.
it's
I'm
the
thinking
ta-
about
hey,
you, man.
It's
He's
the
so dreamy.
tattoos. They'll get you the tattoos, okay?
He needs to finish that sleeve. Sorry.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
does need.
Case. Hurry
I
up.
told him I had $40 to the cause every time he brings it back up. But
Back to the point.
yeah. So now it's just like I'm really working on, hey, I'm following Christ, you're following Christ, we're doing it together. So what was really interesting looking back in hindsight is we really didn't start pursuing each other until I stopped ignoring God. And that's like something you can't make up. Like when I finally hit my part where I was like, oh, I'm going to start my good 90, I guess you could say. That's when that really kind of caught actual traction. And hey, we're going to go on dates and we're going to pursue each other. And before that even happened, we had to have a conversation to fix this whole other mess we had caused.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, hey, well, I'm not dating you because of this happening or just because I like you, like I do, but more so, I date you to marry you. And
Yeah.
you talked about, it's kind of an awkward conversation to have, especially being single, but it kind of helps knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah.
You know, especially if there's already a past there, your past, her past, whoever, you know? And now it's just, we have to realize, like, we're in this triangle. It's not just him and I. It can't just be him and I. If it's going to work, it's got to be this right here, this motion you kept making.
Yeah.
And it's, honestly, that's something that you have to work for every day. And you said this about the Stewarts. I mean, we're not perfect, but, you know, you try, and it's that active, conscientious push to do better and to follow Christ better together. So, yeah, it's looking pretty good. We're like a little over a year in, so.
Yeah, I can definitely tell the change.
Yeah.
Of the relationship, which is, it's awesome to, it's how you say, like, oh, it's all the bad parts, but it's awesome to see that growth
Yeah, it is.
with y'all. And it's
Praise
like,
God, it's
wow,
awesome.
like, again, I can't, there's no explanation. And y'all both saying, y'all are both following Christ, and it's so evident. I remember talking to Case at one of the retreats after the fire, and it's just, we walked up, it was over, and it's kind of like the moment was up, and we kind of just sat there and talked on top of the hill. And he was just, sorry if I'm getting in your business, Case, but he was just really, you could tell that dude was on fire. Like,
Yeah.
wheels were cranking. I was like, oh crap, like this is real, like actually really real. And then y'all started coming to the Bible study and everything, and then just seeing that, it's awesome. It really
Yeah,
is.
praise God.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brady, you were kind of around during those first few bits there.
Yeah, I was in there with y'all.
Yeah, we went on spring break together.
I was like,
Me,
drink
Case,
it,
and
I'll
Brady.
drink one day. Yeah.
Was it
Case
20
actually didn't even drink that much.
Was that 22?
Oh wait, that's spring break.
20
Oh, yeah.
Is that last year? The
Was
year
that last
before?
spring break? Because we didn't do anything hard. We sat in the room and just.
That had to be
Yeah.
22.
Were you there?
I was
If
there.
that was, yeah, I wasn't there.
I was there.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
we're-
was the year I paid, but didn't get. Oh no, I had to do something. Yeah, that's right.
I was there. If it was 22, I was there.
I don't know what.
I was
That's
in
how
the
you
ring
know.
with y'all.
That's
Yeah.
how you know you're getting a little bit older, Mason. What year was that?
What spring break was that?
What spring break was that? But yeah, it is really cool to see that, and even how he's changed. And like you said, like there was almost like a aha moment, like a
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
okay, we're really in this. Like there's conversations that are had and still have to be had, you know, about, you know, they might be awkward, but it's like, hey, this has to be talked about. This has to be thought through. If we're gonna try to do this together and we're gonna try to make it work, like we gotta have some conversations, dude.
I
So,
feel like the awkward stuff is the real stuff. It's the
yes,
it's sensitive for a reason,
for
and
sure.
it has to be had no matter what, or
Yeah.
it'll grow into something nasty.
Yeah, I think conversations are a necessity for a relationship. Especially, like, yeah, you can talk like, hey, what you doing? You know, like that's not a conversation. Especially like if you're going through hard stuff or you're going through a situation, like show the grace, show the mercy, show the love that Jesus showed you, right? And go and navigate through these conversations and situations and problems that you have in your relationship. And then somehow out of this way, you just grow closer together. And I don't know if you've experienced that, but just through it. But I mean, with my past relationships, I have, and it's just been like, wow, how is this bringing us closer together? But it does.
That's 100% true. And I will give it to him. As much as I wanted, a Case blast on here, as he said. Case is really good at communicating, and that's something that I'm super blessed with, because from past relationships, I mean, you bring in that hurt and all these things that happened, and I learned that I was actually the one that couldn't communicate that well.
That's humbling, yeah.
At some point, you have to, and I kind of want to circle back to this self-reflection process of dating, because, I mean, you guys mentioned it's single, but, I mean, it extends to dating, and I'm sure marriage.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just because, like, I did something wrong, you got to think about it like God. Just because you did something wrong, it doesn't mean God is mad at you, and it's you versus God, and obviously you're going to lose if that's the case. But if it's not the case, which it isn't, it's you and God versus the problem. And with communication, it's very nice and refreshing to have someone who could say, this is how I feel, this is why I feel this way. And to have that modeled for me as a girl, that was like, whoa, you got to do better, dude, because you're supposed to be better at this than he is, and he's way better at you. No, he is. And it's just like, think about it with God. Me and Miss Shauna talk about this a lot with, like, feeling anxious and stuff. When you could be honest with God about how you feel, that's when, like, growth happens.
Yeah.
So sitting down and saying, hey, God, I feel mad because I prayed for this and this didn't happen, but I know I'm short-sighted. Like, what's going on? But also talking that out through a relationship. Like, if Case is such a perfect example of how to communicate through a situation, and it be me and him and God versus the problem, how much more is, like, Christ a perfect example for how to love others? You know, that's what I thought about.
Yeah.
Because Case is just Case. I mean, Jesus is Jesus.
Yeah.
So he's got to be a better example.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit, at least.
Yeah,
you know.
barely, barely, Case, barely.
Yeah, just Case.
Oh man. Well, so like one of the things that we talk about in relationships and like premarital counseling and stuff like that is, is there anything, and we've sort of already talked about this, but this will be a little bit more specific. Like I always ask couples, like, what's one thing from your parents' marriage or somebody else's marriage that you view, that you've seen, that you want in your marriage, in your relationship? And then what's one thing that you see in them that you don't want in yours? Do you see the question there?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so I think that's like, because when you can start talking about that, then you can kind of start saying, okay, well, you see what you've learned and what you've been modeled and what you've been taught. So, like, how would you answer that? Because, I mean, obviously we're talking about what a serious relationship looks like and if you're really growing towards Christ. So is that a fair question to throw out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you were shaking your head, so I mean,
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
yeah.
Golly, I feel like I'm put on blast right now.
Do you not have an answer?
Can I get
mean,
a Mason
I'm-
blast?
Yeah.
Kind of like,
No, you don't have to go.
don't have to
You were
go.
like going
Yeah.
like this, so I thought you had one.
well, no, I was like, that's a really good
Well, I
question.
mean,
Gotcha.
I can start. Like, I think a good thing that my parents did growing up, and still do now, is just putting their kids like above them.
Yeah.
And so anything we wanted to do, we were doing. They dance for my sister, gymnastics. Me, baseball, basketball, playing music, anything we wanted to do, we were doing. We had the vacations, we did everything. Praise God for that. I think one thing that they struggle with, but they've actually gotten better at since they've become empty nesters, is like going on dates and just being around each other. And I think that that's something that if I could bring that into my marriage, okay, like, hey, we're juggling these kids, right? But our marriage, needs to be strong first for these kids.
Yeah.
And to model a, hey, this is what Christ, this is what pursuing your significant other looks like. I'm married to you, but I'm also going to date you,
Yeah.
type of thing. And I'm going to bring you out on dates, and I'm going to, give you flowers, give you chocolate, whatever, be.
Are you gonna start singing?
No, I'm not.
Please don't.
Outside your own house with a boombox. This is for
No,
you,
no.
wife.
No, but yeah, I think they did a good job of just being around us a lot and just catering to every need that we had. And then, like I said, as empty nesters, it's just them and their new child now, which is our dog. They bring him literally everywhere around the world. I love that dog. He's awesome. But yeah, that'd be two things that I would
Yeah.
bring in and not bring in.
I would say, I think you see it a lot. I think it's just human nature, honestly. Like I don't really want a transactional love or a transactional relationship because I feel like we could fall into that pretty easily. And I was thinking about it's the First Corinthians. I was trying to find if it was first or second, but you had it at Reed's wedding. Love
Yeah.
holds no records of wrongs or records of fill in the blank. And I think I fall into that pretty easily. Just in any relationship, like, oh, I did something good for him, so I kind of have a little card to get something if I ever need something, or with a girl or this. And I think you can see that in marriages frequently. Oh, I took the kid here, so I get
Yeah.
to go golf on Saturday or whatever. I think it's, and that just goes with sacrifice. I think coming to terms with that is I'm going into this. I don't want anything from this love I'm showing because
Yeah.
that is the image of Christ. Like there's no way we could repay that
Right.
ever. And I think if we want to model that or follow that up in our relationships, you can't have that mindset whatsoever. And I think there's a lot of fruit that would show from that if you live that out. Try to in a way.
Yeah, I think because like what we're supposed to do, like it's the opposite of transaction. Is what we're supposed to like. It's
grace.
because you read about it in Ephesians 5. We talked about that. Like it's about laying your life down for the other person. It's about putting yourself as a servant. To them. It's not like how. It's not like trading off or whatever. Like I think I said that. On the other episode about. Shauna and I, like how we play off of each other's strengths or weaknesses and stuff, and that is a pretty cool thing. It's a benefit, but it's not about like you do this and then I'm going to do this. But if you think about like that's how kind of we approach like the whole dating world too.
Absolutely.
Like, well, like I'm gonna take you out on this date.
Well, we're gonna go home.
Oh, no.
And you think, but we just enter into that space. Because it's all rooted in selfishness and in what we can get out of it instead of what we bring into the relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. One thing I've been thinking about it for a while. Thanks for giving me some time.
You're
And, y'all really helped me realize too that the grace, especially the amount of grace that my parents have had for me,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have done some incredibly stupid things.
Yeah.
And time after time, they never, and as much as sometimes I don't like to admit it, they never fail to immediately help me.
Yeah.
And if you need this, here you go, take it.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would want to bring into my own marriage, especially, is just like kind of what Wyatt said, putting your kids above everything else.
Yeah.
It just meant, like, looking back on it, it means so much to me.
Yeah.
And it's honestly the reason I'm still here today is because of all the unlimited grace. And I thought I was running out at some points, for sure.
Yeah.
But it just kept coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I will push back on that on you guys a little bit. This isn't a parent-kid, podcast anyway. That might be a really good episode though
That would
later.
be
Now that I'm
pretty
thinking
good.
about like we could talk about that, that actually could be really, really good. So write that down or whatever. But what I would say is, like when you do though, you run the danger as parents if you put them up here, like if the kids are number one, well then they just like, hey,
I was thinking that, yeah.
This it's all about me, and then I don't really learn, any kind of like self-sacrifice, self-discipline, whatever, if I always get what I want,
consequences.
and two, like you pointed out, like it'll all be about the kids, be about the kids, and then you wake up one day and the kids are gone and you don't even know each other, right? So that's a thing that we do talk about in premarital counseling. Like, I always try to get couples to wait at least 3 years before they start having kids, so you just get used to being married for a little while, and so you can go, oh yeah, this is something to look forward to in about 22 more years. We get to do this again for a while, which is awesome. So, yeah. So anyway, that would be the only thing, but I think that's a whole other podcast to talk about,
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't spoiled. I don't want to go out there like.
okay.
Was not spoiled. Was not spoiled.
I'm the host of the podcast.
He's gonna cut this out right
This
after.
podcast would not be a thing without me.
No, so that's not what I meant. But
Yeah.
But I did mean what I said at the same time.
Yeah,
I think it's important, like,
No, yeah,
to think it
100%.
through like that.
I definitely
Yeah.
agree.
On the flip side, being a teacher, please think that through.
Oh yeah, right,
Please
right.
think that
you
through.
you can tell, right?
yeah.
As a teacher, who's the spoiled kid and who's not, right?
Oh yeah.
Easily.
And who's
you
the
know?
kid that gets away with everything?
Yeah, who's the kid that gets away with everything? Yeah, you could easily tell that, right? So kind of bringing it back into this dating and this whole world, like, so when you think about what, like, so if, I don't know, we talked about this, like, give me 2 seconds. Y'all talk about. Yeah.
Okay, I have a
Yeah,
point.
go,
I have
go.
a point.
I
Look,
know
have
what I want to
notes.
say, but let's have Mac.
Look, I have notes, so we're good. Something that I thought was cool, or that I find almost hard and cool at the same time, is that the Bible doesn't really talk about dating.
Yeah.
And that's very hard because you know, when you have a problem, at this point we shouldn't be going to Google. We should be going to the Bible and like, hey, what does God say about it? And it's kind of hard to, what is dating? That's just a big question. And I kind of told you guys beforehand, but I actually have these papers from when we did a study on the book that you referenced last podcast called Single, Dating, Engaged, and Married. And this is from 2023. It has survived a lot. But it says dating is not a status to dwell in, which y'all brought up, but a process to move through. It's a series of actions meant to lead us to a particular end, marriage, hopefully, or discerning whether or not we are meant to marry a particular person. Dating exists for evaluation. And the only note I wrote on here in 2023 was marriage equals end goal. How do they grow or can grow your relationship with Christ? And I was single then, and I was in that dark space, and I was just trying to learn and absorb and, you know, sit there. But looking back now, I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Because the question that y'all had asked was, what do you think about this definition? And all I had to say was marriage equals end goal. Like, that's all I had.
Yeah.
But like now, I think it's important to know, yes, it's almost an evaluation of the other person, but even more important, and you can take this from singleness, you really learned this, is self-evaluation. If you want to find stuff that's really wrong with you, start dating somebody. They're going to tell you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it just gets worse when you're married. I've kind of read in and out of this book a little bit. Miss Shauna gave this to me. Shout out again. But it's Sadie Robertson and Christian Huff.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Sadie Robertson Huff, let me say that. And he says that in here. He's like, you want to find out what's wrong with you? You marry somebody. They'll let you know real fast. And it's that playing on strengths and weaknesses. But
Yeah.
I think the coolest thing about dating is, since it, you know, we're kind of, the only model we really have is marriage and what marriage is supposed to look like, but there are certain boundaries to that, you know, is how you and the other person learn one another. And it's that self-reflective process that is so cool. Like me being able to say, hey, I'm actually not a good communicator. I wouldn't have known that had case not been a good one.
Right.
You know, I'd been like, oh, I'm doing fine. But it's so cool learning, like, your strengths and their strengths and your weaknesses and their weaknesses and where you can rely on one another in that sense. And I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that. Like, what from singleness can you learn about yourself to take into dating? And Mason, if you have any, you know, into dating or whatever, what do you think helps that you learn about yourself?
Yeah, that's good. I think you're talking about, like, when you date somebody or you marry somebody, hey, they can tell you real fast, like, what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
I think what helps is, you know, when you're single, you look in the mirror and you can kind of pick out, okay, this is what's wrong with me, this is what's wrong with me, this is what's wrong with me. Then you have another set of eyes when you finally do find that person that you've prepared yourself for, and it's almost like they're picking out stuff as well. But on the flip side, you should be doing that as well with them because iron sharpens iron type of thing, right? You're walking this race together, right? That's the whole goal. And that's ultimately what marriage is to two people, the triangle. We keep talking about it, but as you're walking that way, you're also sharpening each other. You're also saying, hey, Wyatt, that's a sin. We shouldn't do that. Or, hey, whatever, no, that's a sin. We're not going to do that. Hey, you should check yourself at the door. I think it all starts off with honestly being open for that. Because I found myself, in relationships where it's like, oh, I don't do that. No, why are you telling me what to do? Well, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of relate it to like Christ. When you're walking with Christ, the closer you get to Christ, the more you find is wrong in yourself. And that's just how a dating relationship is into a marriage, I think, is, you have to kind of ask yourself this question. And I think Brady said it last time. It was
He usually says the good stuff.
he usually says the one-liners. I promise I'm not just
I don't
listening
say much,
to
but-
Brady. But when he does say something, it's usually pretty good.
He's stealing your job.
But it's that,
Okay.
What's the second
yeah, you said and the thing that sticks out to me probably isn't even something you think about that you're like, oh, that was good. But it was, would the person I want to date me?
Bro, I said that.
Was it you?
Of course.
The king.
Did you for real?
the
Okay, that
kid.
was the one I didn't write a name next
kid.
to. I had
Hey, the
Mr.
kid.
Allen quoted and Brady quoted and Wyatt.
No, that was me.
I don't know what you had down.
And she doesn't have me quoted.
The clip will come out this week.
Okay.
Trust.
Anyway,
He
well,
will make
yes.
it.
Yeah.
And,
His clip will come out.
Yeah.
but like, you have to ask yourself that when you're dating too. Like, am I treating this person how they want to treat me?
Yeah.
And that's, something that I always think about. Luke 6 is do unto others what you would want done to you. And I don't know. It's just that kind of helps with the transactional thing too. Like, but you got to check it. Just because I made Casey's sandwich doesn't mean, hey, now you owe me a sandwich. Like it's got to be genuine.
Yeah, I think singleness, for the most part for me right now, or it really highlights what do I want to get into a relationship for? Because like there's that yearning for something, and it kind of highlights it. It's like, okay, that's why you want to be in a relationship. Is that good or is that bad? And it's just kind of, okay, well, if it's not good, then I need to work on that with the Lord. And because I think there's pros and cons of, we were saying how singleness can be a gift from God and dating can be a gift from God.
Yeah.
And because it's pros and cons of both. You got freedom in singleness to do the Lord's work, which
Right.
I think that First Corinthians, and then you can't just do that when you're in a relationship because you can't just leave the country and go do something or whatever.
Right.
Because you got to talk to your significant other. So yeah, I think right now that's the biggest thing is, I think I'm starting a new chapter in life, and it's kind of just, what am I looking for? What are the big things that are like popping out? Like, that's why I want to meet somebody. And like, just checking those. Are those good or is that bad? And it's getting better, as time goes, because you kind of can recognize the impulses for some things that aren't good. But I think right now that's the single season for me at the moment. But I'm sure something else will come up here in the future.
That's good.
I feel like college really, I don't want to say helped, but it really jump-started my dating life. And obviously, jumping off the gun, I had no idea what I was doing at all. And I had a girlfriend in high school, and what was cool that I wanted to talk about earlier was that my dad raised me to be a gentleman, right? To open the door, to buy food, to just be that guy. And forever, I saw it as just what you do for a woman to be respectful. But the truth behind it, learning now from dating Celie with this base of Christ, with this fire in my heart, is that this stuff kind of paves the way for how a healthy relationship should look in terms of me actually wanting to care for her, wanting to love her how Christ might love me, instead of just going through those motions of being a gentleman.
Right.
Because you have to.
Because you have to. And I will hit on my, like, singleness for me this summer and through the fall was absolutely detrimental. I can't really get my words out today. I'm sorry. Because if I hadn't had that, I fully believe right now is that I would not have said the right things to Celie at the Halloween party where I met her.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been looking for these attributes in a girl and a woman that I want to pursue in the eyes of God.
So singleness wasn't detrimental; it was like foundational.
Foundation.
Would be a better
Yeah,
word.
I was waiting on the bad
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, I was
Keep
Lots of-
going.
lots
Keep
of ice
going.
cream.
I'm just clearing it up. Keep going.
And yeah, like I got out of some stuff in the spring, and kind of going to notice was me running away from a dating life, from my life in general, and in a place where I feel like I don't deserve to be, surrounded by Christians, surrounded by community, and just God was there, and he worked through my heart, and slowly the things I was looking for in women, whether it was like attraction or they like to go out and party or be social in that aspect, just kind of, it's like I was molded into a more like meaningful conversation or just a loving and kind attitude as far as that goes, instead of like craving the girl who looked the best or craving the girl who just went out, partied, did this, did that. And I'm struggling to tie my point back together. But the singleness in Colorado for me really molded like what I was looking for, and that through the eyes of God. And that's why I believe I have such a great relationship now, is because I saw things like actually caring about what I'm saying, so kind, and just someone who was not enjoying the worldly sin that was going on all around us. It was more like I was just, me and her were talking, and it was huge.
I feel like if you ask for that, ever since we kind of started doing this, in a lot of my prayers, I'll just be like, let me see it from your perspective, God, because my perspective sucks. I must have a tinted window or something. But I clear it up, because I'm kind of dumb. Like, clear it up for me. I'm gonna mess it up if you don't. And I think it really just like pierces through like the smoke and mirrors or the worldly surface of things that used to be like a golden, just like, whoa, that's it. And you can just kind of see the emptiness behind that idol, or just the emptiness in it. And it's like, man, I held that up to, like, that was my number one on my pyramid. Like, she's got to have that. And now it's like, I don't care. Like, it would be cool if she had that with this godly attitude, or this joy, or just leaking of Christ, this incense that's just, it's undeniable. And you can tell, like you said, I'm sure when you met Celia, you're like, this girl's, you said that, she's different. And it's just, I enjoy talking to her. And it's like I forgot what you said, but you're like, it's just, it feels different. I'm like, yeah. I know why, I bet.
Yeah,
it was
like,
cool that you talking to you about that.
The first thing that stood out to me was the fact that we were actually having a meaningful conversation, and not like, this party's lit.
What's your major?
What's your major? Like, you're a what?
That's a deep question.
What's your
No, it's the frat lane. What did you say?
What'd you say?
What, huh? No, and this is good to talk about. This is really good to talk about, because it kind of, with a girl being here, I mean, I think the viewers could benefit. And you guys, like, finding a wife of noble character. You talk about it, y'all probably, would y'all even know what section of scripture I'm about to go to?
Proverbs 31.
Look at you. All right, so
love
yes,
Proverbs 31.
growing up, I mean, you run from God, go back to God, whatever. Proverbs 31. I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. What does that look
Gotta
like?
find your Proverbs 31 wife.
You got to find her. Where's she at? But it's this idea that, like, even in Proverbs 18, it says, a wife is a treasure. And sometimes, going back a little bit to what y'all had said last time, was we have this biblical representation of what a wife should be, and then a biblical representation of what a husband should be. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
especially for you guys, I couldn't imagine, but even in my own life, something I wanted to make a point on is that is so hard to not make an idol. Wanting to be a wife, wanting to be a husband, wanting to be a mom. And that's something that I had to learn to better communicate with Case, because half of my frustrations were that was on the altar of my heart and not on his, and it shouldn't have been on mine either. You know, God should be there, and God should only be there. And once you start trying to put a relationship there, or put a person there, like, that's only going to let you down. You can't get any better than God there. And the crazy thing is, this has been happening, you know, recently. I don't know if y'all noticed, but I'm a bridesmaid to hire, apparently, in cases, a groomsman to hire. We're pretty cheap for that, as long as you pay for the dress or the tux, because at this point it's getting a lot. But we've been to a lot of weddings. We've been to a lot of weddings, and it gets hard seeing that. And actually to the point where sometimes you have to run from that completely, where I've had to, you know, like delete social media. Like, hey, maybe let's not take so much of that in. Maybe let's not take, oh, we're pregnant. Oh, we're engaged.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you know, like I can't take so much of that in, because it becomes an idol so quickly for me. And then something crazy that happens is, you know, I'll pray like, Lord, help me, help him understand. Help me understand why I feel like this. And then I think y'all are all here. We did the study on Hannah's prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
saw that and I was like, we did that.
Dude, yeah. 1 Samuel 1 is Hannah's prayer, and she wants a son so bad because this other wife has already given their husband, for one, ouch, but their husband a son, and like think about how important that was. And finally, Case was there, and I was able to tell him like, hey, Hannah's son to her is almost like being a wife to me. When I make you a sandwich, it's not just, hey, here's your sandwich. And this is the sandwiches that me and Miss Shauna were clearly talking about when you
Gotcha.
walked in the other day was, here's a sandwich. Please marry me. I'm going to be a good mom. I'm going to be a good wife. I'm going to clean the house. Here you go.
I'm proving it to you.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I would always try to prove that I could be a good wife, that I'm worthy of your love.
Yeah.
And that's not, you know, what a relationship is. A relationship is more like a prepare. That's what I kind of have come to terms in now, and that's where I'm at now. Like, I'm not trying to prove I'm a good wife.
Yeah.
You know, I'm worthy. God has called me worthy. I'm a daughter of the true King, and that's not enough for you. Like, please walk away. You know?
Yeah.
But it's that trying to prepare to how is our life going to work out? How is me making you a sandwich? How does that look? You know, like, what does your family look like? What does my family look like? What do they look like together? And it's not this trying to prove to him, because that's where we get, you know, miscommunicated, because
Yeah.
boys don't always think about that. But there was a question in there. What is a way that you can maybe help, you know, a future spouse or significant other or yourself, you know, not create an idol of that? Because it's not a bad thing unless it's an idol, and then it is a bad thing.
Man, I just want you to create a sandwich for me. You've been talking about I'm hungry.
Yeah, Mr.
Forgot the
Allen,
tomato.
Mr. Allen walked in the other day. I said, does Miss Shauna make the best sandwiches? And he was like, I mean, they're all right. And I was like, well, I got to get on Case, because he says I make the best, and now I'm scared.
I think he
I
wants
made
to make
one
you another
sandwich.
one.
Yeah.
He just wants another one.
I made one sandwich, and now I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Egg
Stuck.
sandwich,
Messed up.
ham sandwich. It
No.
doesn't matter.
So like making an idol of like the title.
Yeah, it may be the title, but maybe just like the,
That's
you know, making,
Yeah.
what? Did I miss
No.
a joke?
Nah,
that's- messing things up.
Okay.
I am. That's on me. That's on
Making
me.
an idol out of this relationship. Like, I will have down to the wire, like, every decision I make matters, and it does. But to the point where I'm like, if I do this, he's going to walk away. That he's going to know,
Yeah.
like, if he comes over, my room's dirty, oh my gosh, that's it. He's going to think our house is going to be dirty in the future, and this is going to end right here.
I think that goes back to, I think you already said it, is if, I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but if we have that, that kind of want, if we go into a relationship trying to fill a God-sized hole, it's not gonna work. Like,
Yeah.
she is gonna let you down because we're humans, no matter what. If a human is on the altar of your heart, good luck, buddy. It's coming, because we're gonna fail. And what's that? You said don't be a drain. Be
Oh
a
yeah,
fountain.
yeah.
Be a
Be a
fountain.
fountain and
Like,
not a drain.
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that person's a drain. You're just draining away. in
Yeah.
there, and they're not feeling you. And like the only person that can really feel that hole, I mean, is God. And that's the only thing. If you're going in there searching for something, it's like to make you feel enough or to fulfill that idol. I mean, that's gonna fail. I mean, maybe not. It might fail in 35 years. It might fail in a year, but eventually it will, or it will fade away because, I mean, all things do here.
Yeah. So just keeping that at the forefront of your mind,
Yeah.
because you're not, you can take that into a relationship. Okay.
Yeah,
Got
and I think too, like what we don't realize too is that we bring, anytime we come into any relationship, anything like that, we bring baggage, we bring all these expectations to relationships and stuff like that, and we just do it because we have a past, we're like informed, we've gone through things or whatever, and it just happens, right? So we bring these things into the relationship, and it's kind of like that idea, we've talked about it before, of the armor of God and the different pieces in the shoes. It's like it's the shoes fitted for the readiness of the gospel of peace, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea is to, when you enter into a room, do you bring the peace of God with you when you come into the room? And so when you come into a relationship, you're going to be bringing these things with you. And so understanding that and realizing that, okay, I have these expectations, I have these thoughts, but I can't just like transfer all this stuff onto this person and just back the truck up and dump it all on them. It's like, hey, this is what you got to be, and this is how it's going to go, because this is how I felt, and we can't do that. And so then you're back to communication and like saying, okay, like, what do we really want here at this stage of this relationship? And I think like for y'all's age folks, when you're in the beginnings of these relationships and you're just like starting out dating, I know maybe the first date, is not the idea to go, you know what? Hey man, here's my list of what I want a good wife to be or whatever, Yeah, exactly. Maybe those conversations don't happen date one, but just being clear about expectations from the start, So I'll out my nephew on this. He'll probably never listen to the podcast, so he wouldn't even know. But and I don't have this from him, but I have it on good authority that he went out on took this girl out on this date, and then when he dropped her off, he goes, I just want to let you know there won't be a second date or whatever, like
Keeping it real, man.
Great shooter.
But I mean,
Keeping it real.
But I mean, like, he was very clear. I mean, it's kind of harsh, and sometimes he's an awesome dude. But sometimes, he can be, because I've seen him grow up, he can be kind of robotic, So I'm sure the way that came across to that girl was like, ouch,
Turned and looked at her.
There is no second date.
Like, did you yell that out the window? I wouldn't to her face.
I
That's
have
not
no idea. I
realistic.
haven't done it. Like I said, I haven't talked to you about it. But the one thing I respect about it is like, hey, we're just being real here. We're just being clear, And so we want to, and so finding a way to navigate and do that in a relationship and have that kind of conversation, and I just understanding as you go into these things, like having those realistic expectations and then being clear and honest about what they are. And because at some point, you got to set boundaries, and at some point you got to talk about, okay, how often are we going to see each other? Like, what are we doing here, and not that you got to put labels on it or you got to have the define the relationship talk from the beginning, but if you set those things up early, you don't fall into those traps and pits and like setting up boundaries for physical stuff. Like I remember talking about this when we were in college, because we had this big, like, there was like a 12 steps of intimacy or whatever, and of course, step 12 is sex. And then, but you had all these steps leading up to it, right? And so the way that the guy described it was like, okay, so what you want to do is you want to, like, if 12 is like, the end game or whatever, like you want to set your boundary, you want to draw your line, like, way up high on the list, Don't draw it to step 11, because what you're going to do is you're going to motor down through one
Fall
through
down.
11, and you're just going to rip right through the boundary, It's just like a free fall,
It's momental.
Yeah, it's momental. I can't stop, So you want to set those boundaries up high, and the only reason you can have any boundaries in the first place is if you actually have a conversation, and you're not going to know, where each other stand if you don't talk about this stuff. So I mean, yeah, maybe not date 1, but probably by date 2, you probably ought to start talking about, like, okay, so what's going on,
Yeah.
But I would say if it's really an evaluation, if that's what it is, then you're probably going to know a lot of those things, or at least have a good hint on a lot of those things before you even go on the first date,
Yeah.
if you're really doing it right, and you keep working and you keep growing, and you're right. Like, even through marriage, you keep figuring stuff out. You're never done. You've never arrived or anything like that. I mean, I think Clint Eastwood, he said it in
What movie?
Gran Torino. Great movie. If you haven't seen Gran Torino, you need to watch it. It's like a must watch. And he talked, you never meet his wife in the movie because he's older and she's already passed away, but he was talking about how, well, it's something to the effect of, I just found the best girl on the planet, and then I just decided to marry her, and we just made it work, or whatever, like. And he said it more eloquently than that. But the point of it is like, you find this person, you make these commitments, and then you still have to make it work. It's not magic, Like, all throughout your life, there's these things that you're going to have to go through and work through. And man, if you're doing that together, if you're on the same page, then it's way easier to do. And the only way you get to that point ever is by doing a lot of these other things at the beginning, setting boundaries, having expectations, being real, having real conversations, like all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But we could probably go on for a long time. I don't know. Is there one more, like, Mac thing that we can talk about, since you're here tonight?
Yeah. I don't know. Do y'all have any questions for me? I mean, I have more, but I'm on y'all's podcast.
This didn't even be the last thing, but I think some people I got confused on it in some ways. If you can find a girl and it's like, she seems perfect, she's Christian, she's got it going and all that, and it's like, I gotta make this work.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I think chemistry is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not. You don't just go out to the church like, okay, I gotta find one of these girls. Like, she's weird, but I'm gonna date her. Like, this is gonna work. Gonna marry me. Like, that chemistry is a big thing with that. Don't get it confused. And you can. I was listening to the dude that wrote that book, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was dating this girl, and had a great relationship with Christ, and we were doing good. We were both following Jesus, but man, we just ran out of stuff to talk about. And like, we said it to each other like, this just ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ended. Like, and it's okay. It's like, if
Right.
something just doesn't work out, it's fine. The Lord's not like, you blew it, man. You blew it. She's a Christian. You lost. That's the only one I'm giving you. Chemistry is a huge thing, and you got to have it. I think that be sustained, have a sustainable thing. So that's a little quick thing.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you find that because if you're pursuing Christ and you're around other people, and I mean, everybody meets somebody in different ways. I get it, I understand it, different times. But I do think though that this whole getting to know somebody, you could kind of see some of those chemistry things and some of that spark stuff in these initial conversations, maybe way before there's ever some kind of real, like, official, serious first date. Like, I think back to like Shauna and I, like, our very first conversation that we ever had. I felt like we could have kept talking that day. I mean, there's tons of people around too. It's like in the middle of tech campus during registration or whatever, and I felt like we could have just kept talking all day long. And then, like, and it was like a whole year later before we really ever started dating, and we would just kind of see each other periodically, and like, she had started dating somebody else, and I'd started dating somebody else, and I'd be like, oh, what an idiot! What you really ruined it, messed that one up bad, But my point is then, like, one of the first times we ever had a date, all we did was we drove to Wendy's, got a Coke, and then drove to Hideaway Park and sat on the hood of my truck and talked for like 4 hours. It wasn't anything crazy, it wasn't anything elaborate. It was still just this conversation, and like really learning to understand, hey, what are you, not going, hey, what are your dreams? But as you talk to somebody, you kind of begin to figure out.
It's natural. It comes out.
So I think we put a lot of pressure on things to have things a certain way, and dinner and a movie or whatever it is. I don't know, but there's so many other ways to do that, and then and I think too, it's important to find somebody like, and see how they are around other people, you know, like it's important to know, you know. So how are they around their friends, you know, and not that you got to go meet the parents right away, but even when you talk about their family, what is that like? And you know, there's just so many aspects to it as you kind of begin to figure this relationship stuff out. So
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's crazy. I had both of those thoughts on the way here.
yeah,
That was one of my questions is, okay, if we're both doing this and we're both doing it the right way, but it just doesn't work out, like what could we say to someone who might have experienced that, you know, like
Yeah.
we're both doing the right thing and we didn't mess up, but it did work, you know, and I think that's a big deal is the chemistry and, yeah, getting to know one another. And there's, you know, you don't have to have everything in common or anything in common, but if you have that chemistry, you know, I think it's almost like, I feel like chemistry is like a discerning gift from God, like it's part of discerning, if that makes sense. Like, is this person really for me? Because, you know, you can appreciate what the other person likes. Like the other day, what did I learn? He's gonna make fun of me. A balk. I had to learn what a balk was. You know what I'm talking about? The picture thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
nobody really knows what it is, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, he's pretty good at explaining it. But,
Depending on the
like,
umpire.
and like, you know, he's like learning things that I like and we're learning as we go. And hey, now I like CrossFit and we both have that in common. And that's, you know, cool. But there are some times where it's just like, okay, this is my thing, this is your thing, and that's okay.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah. And I just think that's cool. And something else is, you brought it up, something I thought about, and it's not even necessarily a question, it's more of like a reflection to see what y'all think about it, is, you know, seeing how someone is in their relationships, like their relationships that already exist. That's a big deal about how your relationship is going to go. And just like, what are your thoughts on that? How do your already existing relationships, like with your parents or with your grandparents or whoever, how do those earthly relationships already affect your dating relationship without you even dating yet, or you dating yet, you know? Like, how does that work? What does that look like?
Well, where does he say that? Well, you can tell by the tree by the fruit it bears.
Yeah, fruit it bears,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that goes with anything in life. And if they're not bearing fruit, I mean, there's something wrong, or it's not genuine. Because I mean, people can deceive you pretty easily. Like you said, there's some church freaks out there that put on the shirt and whatever you
Yeah.
said. And like, yeah, that's freaking true. And like,
words to every song.
I think you could literally just watch somebody talk to maybe not a brother or sister, you know, they can get under your skin, but like a mom or dad or just a friend, and just see how are they genuine, or are they sacrificial to people? Like, oh, they do stuff for people. And that's a very easy because sometimes we put our blinders up when someone's very hot, like, oh, bang. I don't care what you do, you know? And I think if you just pay attention and just watch how they go about life, it becomes very evident of their heart posture.
Yeah, I would agree with the fruit of the spirit stuff. It's almost as if you're looking at somebody and it's like, okay, do I just see Jesus on you, or do I see Jesus in you?
Oh, that's good.
Type of thing like that. And that really, you see that's evident everywhere with the way you speak, you know, how you treat people, you know. They talk about the Jesus glow all the time, but man, I think that's real. I mean, if I can just look at somebody and say, hey, I don't even have to know this guy, just walking in public, and I see him, he's just like glowing, like, man, hey, that girl, I know she's following Jesus, you know. But then again, that can be deceiving, you know. So you know, don't judge a book by its cover, type of thing. But if I had to, you know, piggyback off of that, like, yeah, see Jesus in them, not just on them, because a lot of people, especially here, wear that on them, type of thing, because of the Bible Belt and just stuff like that, you know.
Well, I think too, like we talk about dating somebody and really getting to know somebody, that one of the things I remember people telling us was like, you need to date somebody for a year or be around them for a year, because you kind of see them in all kinds of moments. You know, you see them with their family, you see them in low times, in high times. You know, if you're around somebody for a long period of time, you're going to catch most of their moods. You're going to catch, you know, a lot of how they respond to different, you know, stressful situations, stuff like that. And you're going to figure out really quickly if there's compatibility there, if there's still a desire to want to work through things, even though I know this is how this person gets or whatever, you're going to figure those things out. And so again, we're back to the whole evaluation that you brought up at the beginning from what's his name's book. What is that dude's name?
Dude, I
Ben.
don't know.
It's Ben something, right?
Oh yeah, he was in the podcast with Sadie Huff,
Yeah.
Sadie Robson Huff, and
Yeah.
he brought up that I heard be a fountain, not a drain. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, that's where he got
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah,
single,
yeah, it's in
dating,
the book,
engaged,
yeah.
married. That's the
Hey, I did quote that. Now, I didn't steal that right the other day. at the
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, no, no, no,
yeah,
you
you
say
quoted
it.
it. I
You
quoted
quoted
it.
it.
right.
Quoted it.
I'm not out there robbing people, but but yeah. So I think, yeah, to be able to continue that evaluation process and get to know somebody is huge. And again, it's all back to that whole thing we talked about last episode of like, oh my gosh, like we rush into all this stuff and we skip over all these steps.
Yeah.
And then we're just kind of wake up and look around and like, oh crap, this sucks. I don't even really know if I like this girl,
Yeah.
or this guy is a total moron. Why did I let him into my life, And so, yeah, just kind of pace yourself and understand that this is like because it is definitely not a sprint, right? I mean, this is a marathon we're
I
talking
hope not,
about.
I'm losing.
Yeah, and so you got to figure that stuff out as you go and pace yourself. And there's so many layers to having a relationship that's worth anything,
Yeah.
And so it's just not an overnight deal, and it's not something you can just go. You grab, like you said, like grab this one off the shelf and like, okay, yeah, that's the one I need right there,
That's one of the greatest gifts God gave us, and it's
Yeah.
You want to take your time with it, do it right, or
Yeah.
rely on the Lord
And we
to do
suck
it
at
right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with like, don't listen to the rest of the world. Like, really do this the right way. Like listen for God, talk to other people. I mean, take things slow when you need to, and ask questions that are real. I mean, don't do the stereotypical thing. Don't think it's got to look like anybody else for that. It doesn't, right? I mean, you're unique, and you're fearfully and wonderfully made and all that stuff. You're created in the image of God. God knows what he's doing. And so if you let him guide you, kind of, we were talking about all that stuff with Samuel, and I can't remember if we talked about this on the other episode, but Samuel in the House of David episode, like we talked about this last night at Bible study, that it's that question of, okay, what do you want your servant to do? And I mean, that applies in everything, and it also applies in this area of relationships. Like, what do you want me to do, God? Like, what's for me right now, wherever I am, whether I'm dating somebody, whether I'm single, whether I'm married, like, what do you want me to do in this relationship? Because this is what I was trying to say a while ago. Like you said, it's one of the most important gifts that God has given us, this precious, wonderful thing, and you want it to last a long time, So be like patient with it, but
Be
golly,
diligent.
be diligent in it. Golly, I can't believe it. I should have said it immediately ago. Golly, what am I doing, man? It's way past my bedtime, I think.
Yeah, honestly.
But yeah, make it good. I totally lost where I was going, man. Oh my gosh, it's so old.
Come on.
Oh, and it's pitiful. It's pitiful. It's pitiful.
Oh, man.
But yeah, this is what it was. Don't settle. Like, do not settle.
Yes.
Like, do not settle for things. Like, don't, like, this is something that Sean and I learned early on, right? Is that you can't just, okay, like, this is just how it's going to be. Like, I've told you guys this before, like that whole, well, it is what it is, and that's just how marriage is, or whatever. It's going to be. Don't settle. And don't settle in this area of relationships. Like, push for, this is such an important relationship, push for it to be the best. Like, don't ever say, well, this is good enough. I've done enough here, or whatever. Always push for this to be the very best. Like this. And I think if you enter into that from the very beginning, like as a college person in late high school, whatever, and you're beginning to actually have real relationships or whatever, and it's not just, hey, will you go to this dance with me or whatever, then push for it to be the best. Like, absolutely do not settle. I mean, there's certain things that, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, what you have for lunch tomorrow, I mean, yeah, you want to try to eat healthy, but it doesn't really matter, or what type of bread you get on your sandwich, whatever. Even what type of car you drive, but don't settle for this. Like, that's what I would say. Man.
Yeah, I don't think a good marriage has any settling in it.
Yeah.
That's something that me and Celia actually talk about a lot, is that we don't want to settle down for
Oh, right. Yeah, that's
a
what you're saying.
specific reason, or just because Celia's a great girl and she's a godly woman. Oh, check, I'm done. I'm locked in. I'm not going to hold on to you because you're this and that. I want to hold on to you because I love spending time with you, and I enjoy doing this part of our walk, like, towards Christ together.
Yeah.
And not just because I think you're going to save me in the end.
Right. And you continue to do the iron sharpens iron, and you push each other on toward greatness. Like in the Narnia books, they use this phrase like further up and further in, like when they're going deep into the forever land of the lion or whatever, and like so further up and further in. Jordan Peterson always says onward and upward or something like that at the end of his podcast, or somewhere in his podcast he says that, on a regular basis. But it's like that's the whole thing. You're just not settling. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't settle. Yeah.
It's good. It's a good 90.
It's a good 90.
Is the 90 over?
Has it
Oh,
been
yeah, I think
90?
it's way past 90.
Yeah.
That's why
Very
long
good.
We
form
might
we've
be
ever
in
done.
90 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
This is a real long one.
It's a good 120.
Yeah. Whatever it is.
It's better than the good 67.5 we had the other day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The viewers say otherwise.
No, they don't.
All right, so who knows where we're going to go next with this? There's probably still some more relationship stuff we didn't talk about. I mean, and so like we said last time, if there's stuff that we didn't say, that we didn't talk about, shoot us a comment or whatever. Reach out to one of us. I mean, I would love to unpack these kinds of things deeper if we need to. So go further up. To not settle even in these kind of conversations. So. I would encourage you guys out there that are listening to do that. Tell us what we got wrong, but more importantly, say, hey, you guys didn't talk about this. What do you think about this? Real questions, because I think there are real answers. I'm not saying we all know them, but I do think that.
We're just shooting the bull, trying to figure it out.
But hey, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Miss McMiller.
Thank you.
Fun to be here.
She taught us a little something.
Yeah.
About
did.
girls.
And we didn't really make too many case jokes either.
Yeah,
so,
it was good.
Maybe that was a missed
blast.
opportunity.
Case black.
Yeah.
Going to Sonic right after
Yeah.
this.
Love you,
Can I get
Case.
Yeah.
Case?
Thanks again.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
Adios, guys.
Catch you around.
Good 90.
See you sinners.
That was it. I was waiting for that.